Okay, Ken Dunek and Mark Eckel with the Bird Brains with Ken and Mark. Full disclosure, Mark, I did fall asleep in the third quarter last night. I'm too old to stay awake for these 8 o'clock games, and I woke up early this morning and I taped it and watched the rest of it and wrote a bunch of notes down for us and our very special guest that I'll introduce here in a second. National game, you got to watch in the comfort of your home. What were your initial thoughts, Mark?
That the Eagles are really playing well. Saquon Barkley's just he. I mean, I'm one of the guys that always says most valuable player should be the guy that's most, not always the best player, but most valuable.
Mm-hmm.
I use the word valuable. Well, there's no doubt in my mind that if the season ended today, he's the most valuable player in the league.
Yeah,
I mean, he won that game. He took that game over.
I agree. By any definition of the most valuable player, it's the player that is playing the best at his position and most valuable to his team's success. And that says all you need to know about Saquon Barkley. Let me get through a couple of bookkeeping items here before we get going. And I introduced our special guest. Of course, we're recording this at the SuiteRecording Studios in Mount Laurel. If you have an interest in doing a podcast, this is a great place to do it. Contact Joe Gangemi at SuiteRecording.com and he will take care of you. This podcast is sponsored by Gateway Mortgage. Call our friend Chris Wilhelm if you have a mortgage need at 856-810-1222. That's Chris Wilhelm, Gateway Mortgage, 856-810-1222. And we're going to do the Eagles cruise that we've been talking about on April 12th. Myself, Sean Landetta, Vince Papali, Byron Evans, Gary Cobb, and a bunch of Eagles are going to cruise out of Tampa. If you want to check that out, Joe will put the information on the cruise on the screen. Again, it leaves on April 12th. Use the promo code Dunek, D-U-N-E-K, for $300 off of your cabin. And finally, JerseyMan Magazine, and we're having our holiday party at Live Casino. If you have an interest in attending that party, I'll give you all the information and the date, and hopefully you can be there and celebrate the holidays with us. Now, Mark, I've got a very special guest. I appreciate he's being here. I know he's got a bulky back and some other issues going on, but of course, this guy always lives up to his commitments. He's the guy that took a risk on a free agent basketball player from Memphis State in 1980, and I was able to turn that into a 6-year pro football career. Forever grateful for my friend and our special guest, Coach Dick Vermeil. Coach, how are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. I've got issues, but I'm doing okay. I don't think anybody 88 years old lacks issues, okay?
Yeah. Well, if anybody can handle adversity, I know it's you, and I'm sorry you're going through that. But, Coach, I've got so many questions I want to ask you. Initially, your thoughts on what you saw last night and how this Eagles team has actually improved over the course of the year.
Well, I think the emphasis of the running game, and for I don't know how many years now we've been saying we have the best offensive line in football. Now we're taking advantage of it. Mm-hmm. Barkley's unbelievable running back, but a couple of those long runs, an average running back would have scored on those because there was holes wide enough to drive a truck through. But they're a very good football team right now, taking advantage of the player ability they have at specific positions.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Mark, your thoughts on Barkley and his record-setting performance last night? Broke the all-time record for Eagles rushing in a game at 255 yards. Averaged almost 10 yards a carry last night. It was just amazing.
He had 270-yard runs. That'll help your average a little bit there. And I'm just, listen, when they signed him, first I was surprised. I'd heard rumors, the Eagles are interested in Barkley, and I thought somebody's leaking that to get the Giants to pay. We're going to leak that he's going to your rival, so then you try to keep him more, give him more money. Because Eagles end up, through the last few years, they went with running back by committee kind of, or they went with they traded for a Swift. They traded like a 5th-round pick to get him. They didn't go big on running back like a lot of teams. Teams, the running back is although this year we're seeing the running backs reemerge as stars. Mm-hmm. Jacobs in Green Bay is doing a good job. Derrick Henry's having a great year for Baltimore. So we're seeing the running back come back into, the limelight a little bit. But I was surprised. I was surprised that they signed him. And I wasn't sure because, his Giants career, he battled some injuries. He was number 2 pick in the draft for a reason. But
severe knee injury in his rookie year.
Yeah. So, that's another reason I was a little surprised. But man, he's been worth everything that they gave him and more. That was a great signing. And And then you look at the Giants and the mess they're in, and you wonder, right?
Hey, Coach, when do you think it became common practice to devalue running backs? Now, I know it's financial because they take a beating and they have a shorter shelf life than everybody else, but the importance of the running game and stopping the run will always be paramount in football. But again, teams seem to shy away from giving these running backs these bigger contracts as they get older, for sure.
Ken's good question. I don't know who started it or why they started it, but I have never believed in it. Since the rumors all started, and then it became factual that this is what they're doing. They're not going to pay running back. Even Barkley,
Yeah.
his salary compared to other players on the team that touch the ball or get the ball thrown to them 4 or 5 times a game. Yes, they make big plays, but I just never could understand it. I always felt people that touch the ball the most are the most valuable, or don't give them the ball.
Hmm.
There are a lot of guys that you wouldn't give a lot of money to. You'd give them average running back money. But when you recognize a superior guy that doesn't come around maybe once every 10 years, an Eric Dickerson, those kind of guys, a
Yeah.
Marshall Faulk, you pay them. You pay them because you are, if you're smart enough, you are going to utilize them.
Yeah.
And you're not going to limit it to just the running game. And you don't have to take him out after he runs 3 plays. I mean, it's just, a week ago they played a defensive lineman the whole game. Okay. For a while, they play those guys 8 snaps and pull them out on the goal line. The best players come out. I just don't understand that. So I think they've really worked out a plan between administration and Howie, who's done a bar. The reason he's here is Howie.
Hmm.
And I'm sure they all talk about it. But right now he's a bargain basement player.
Yeah. Well, listen, I could only imagine what your reaction would have been. Now, you were actually calling the shots in conjunction with Jim Murray back with the Eagles. But if Jim Murray had come to you and said, "Hey, listen, we're going to let Wilbert go because of contractual," I could just imagine how that meeting would have gone. And one of you might not have come out of your office at that point.
Let me give you some insight to Wilbert's contract. Okay,
Hmm.
we get him, mid-round pick. He's playing well. He's getting going. He's into his 3rd year. He's really playing well, and he's really playing well. So I brought him with permission from Jim Murray. I brought him into my office. I sat him down. I said, Wilbert, I have the contract numbers of the 3 number 1 running backs in the NFL. To me, you're one of those guys. I have the amount of money they're making. I have averaged out the salary of those 3 guys per year and want to know if we offer that to you, would you sign it? No, no. He said, yes, coach.
So,
He gained about 400%. Okay.
well,
He was not making, he was not making
well, he was on a rookie guy. He's probably making
35,000
35,000 a year back then,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
And I think he went into the 400 category.
Oh my gosh.
And no agent involved, nothing. And that's how, as far as I know, it was his last contract with the Eagles.
That's
Yeah,
even.
it's funny you bring him up, Ken. My first year on the beat was 1985, and I actually the Eagles. I broke the story when they traded him to the Lions for Gary Cobb,
Mm.
and that was a big. I mean, Wilbert. It was what they're trading who for what? Wait a minute, what's going on here? And yeah,
Well,
and it was the
unfortunately,
contract thing. That's when Norman Bremen bought the team, and he came in and just kind of said, "Wait, we're getting rid of it." They got rid of like 8
well, they got
players.
rid of Harold, went to Dallas. I mean, Jaws went
That
to
was before me.
Miami and Kansas City. I mean, it
Yeah,
was.
it was a bunch of Gary Robinson got traded to the
Yeah.
Raiders. Joel Williams got traded to the Falcons. This might not. This is me. I'm not. I'm covering high school sports like a year ago. Now they put me on the
Right.
Eagles beat. I'm like, is this what it's always going to be like? This is
Right.
crazy. But yeah, yeah. So Wilbert's contract. Raymond didn't want to pay him whatever he was making at the time and sent him off to the Lions for Gary Cobb, who became a Philadelphia media legend, right?
Listen, coach's loyalty to play, and by the way, the fact that you brought your player in to give him more money unsolicited, I think
Yeah.
says all you need to know about. But I'll tell you, I get asked what's my favorite Dick Vermeil story all the time, and I've got several of them. The first time I met him, obviously, it was a little awestruck, but after I retired, I was in private business, and I was sitting in an office, and my telephone rings, and there's no caller ID. It's just a regular, push button phone. So I answered the phone. And the guy on the phone says, Ken, it's Jim Gallagher with the Eagles. I just want to let you know that Dick Vermeil wants you to be at his Eagles Hall of Fame ceremony. And I said, well, that's incredible, Jim. I said, who's going to be there? He goes, well, you, Ron Jaworski, Wilbur Montgomery, Bill Berge, and I hung up the phone. I thought it was a prank call. So he calls me right back. He goes, what'd you hang up on me for? I said, are you serious? I mean, that he wants me. So, and he goes, yeah, you know, you're part of the 80 team, you're a local guy. So I go with my daughter. It was a great experience. But that just, you know, kind of speaks to the loyalty of who we're talking to. And Coach, I want to ask you a little bit about somebody that, you know, I played for back with the Stars, Vic Fangio. This defense has really come alive. I thought that was one of the more physical games that I've seen the Eagles play. Their front four is very disruptive. They got a double Jalen Carter there, which gives opportunities to some other players. We had 5 sacks last night. Nakobe Dean and Bond are playing very physical and athletic at the linebacker position. These 2 rookie corners, Mitchell and DeJean, are playing great. What is your you've been studying football for a long time and probably know of Vic Fangio. I don't know how friendly you are with him, but what do you think about what he's done with this Eagles defense?
Well, he has done an unbelievable job. An unbelievable job. And I'm not surprised. Experience. He's produced defensive teams. I figured it out one time. I went through his whole career. He had about 11 or 12 different stats ranked in the top 1, 2, or 3 in the categories all through his career. So it didn't surprise me to do well. I met him through Jim Mora, as you know.
Yeah.
And Jim loved him, you know, and I followed him. I followed him even in Denver. I followed him. You know, he's done a great job. Plus, they let him. I think they let him. I think they practiced a little different this year because of him, and they would probably practice a little different, even a little more because of him.
A lot more. Yeah, he's a contact kind of a coach.
He's been through the league. He's seen the evolution of the league, you know, and I just think he's made an outstanding contribution to very good football players that Howie brought there that needed to be coached, needed to be toughened up, needed to work a little harder, needed to go through all the OTAs allowed, needed to go through minicamp, all the things. And there's, you know, coaches' jobs are to make them better, not happy. You make them happy, buy them a beer. You know?
That's right.
And I think he's made a tremendous contribution, and he's helped the head coach be a better head coach because he'll learn from him. I'm Marion Campbell. If I don't have Marion Campbell in Philadelphia, we don't do what we do. You know, and if I go to the Rams, I don't have Mike Martz doing what we did. I don't go to the Super Bowl. And in Kansas City, if I don't have the people I had, the Al Saunders and those guys, we need assistant coaches, you know, that have ability to do things that you can't in the area that your expertise is. So I'm really proud of what the organization's done, and I'm very optimistic about what they can do if they continue on the road they're on right now.
I agree. Mark, one of the great Eagles of all time, his career might have come to an end last night. Brandon Graham tore his triceps and is out for the season. Third all-time sack leader with the Eagles now with 76.5 sacks. But if you got to go out, that's the way to go out. And then he played great last night.
If they lose him, oh my God! I you know, like you, that had to be in the fourth quarter.
It was late. It was late in the second half. Might have been the end of the third or the fourth quarter. Yeah.
Fell asleep off and on.
Well, they really didn't say too much about it. I heard about it this morning.
Yeah, they didn't know it. Well, he said it after the game.
Yeah.
He told the writers, a couple of writers after the game, that it was torn. Sirianni wouldn't comment on it. Sirianni said, "We're holding out hope," but I don't think there's any hope. I mean, if it's torn, it's torn, right?
Yeah, just I don't know what that means medically, but he's more than a defensive lineman for them. He's the poultry of that defense.
Yes, he is.
There isn't anybody that plays every snap here for a number of years that plays like he plays on every snap. That's who he is. He's Carl Hairston for me. Okay.
Hey, one of the more physical games that I can remember last night, mostly on the Eagles side, but the Barkley stiff arm on the linebacker, just throwing
Oh,
him
yeah.
to the
Was
ground.
that
Wow.
fashionable, wasn't it?
Holy cow. N'Kobe Dean on the sack, just busting through and planting the quarterback. Of course, Brandon Graham playing at the level we talked about. Jared Verse actually bull rushed Jordan Mailata and sent him backwards. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever stood next to Jordan Mailata. I have. That is a massive human being. The fact that somebody could plant him in the ground, only taking one or two steps, was
No,
amazing. But
he was back on his heels.
yes,
His pass set was not clean.
right.
You don't
See, he's
pass
always
that
he
properly.
knows technique, right? Even the coach is breaking down
Well,
technique.
you know what I get a kick out of? All these guys that present the color of the games. More plays are ruined because of fundamental breakdown than design or play call.
Sure.
And he just didn't pass that properly fundamentally.
Yep.
I wanted to ask Coach, you had mentioned earlier about, going to all the OTAs and the mini camps and all that kind of stuff. And um, I started in '85. You were already gone from the Eagles, and Marion, your assistant, was the head coach then. But the game is, I mean, the way they practice now, the way training camp is now, is so different from when you were coaching. Is it? And I understand the safety issues, and I understand, they're paying the guys so much money now, they don't want them to get hurt. But is it a good thing the way they practice and training, what the way training camp is now compared to the way it was in the '80s?
It's good for their health, no question. I started the league in 1969, so I know a lot of guys that played a long time have CTE issues and different
Okay.
things like that. Some of our own guys, okay, so it's good. I think you can still practice a little more physical than they do. As a coach, you got to quit worrying sometimes about getting somebody hurt. Then they get hurt. Yeah, I
That's
can tell
good.
you.
Right.
Stan Walters, my left tackle, Guy Morris, my center, and right tackle, Jerry Sizemore, for 7 years, missed a total of 5 games. I think it was between all three of them,
Wow.
including playoff games.
It's
And we
unreal.
practiced hard.
That's just unreal.
Now they pay the price at their age today. But I think what they're doing, the reason they're doing is sound. I think it's still and there are coaches that will tell you that they'd like a little more time with them because the product, especially in the offensive line, are not as refined as they were in the past when you had more time to work with the individual. See,
All right.
Interesting. Hey, Coach, I had a general. I know, you being a head coach, you have great respect for coaches, and but in general, when you see some coaches in the league going for it at almost ridiculous percentages, or passing by early field goals. I remember Don Shula making the statement, you take the points early and you gamble late. Was that your philosophy in football? Do you agree with all this going forward? Oh, by the way, if you had an analytics guy in your ear, would you tell him to get the hell out of here? You're going to do it yourself? What's going on there?
you know, Ken, I studied that kind of stuff a long, long, long time ago, even with the Bud Goody stats that I helped organize. Okay, and I believe in that stuff, but I think it's exaggerated now to the point where sometimes you're making bad mistakes. Hey,
Mhm.
how about the Washington game a couple of weeks ago? He loses to Pittsburgh. Okay, 4th and 2.
Yep.
Okay, kick the field goal. Go
Hmm.
ahead. It doesn't do it. You not only lost the points, you lost the team. They came out after that because they didn't make it, and they lost that edge emotionally. You got to be very careful. So you've got to evaluate every situation. My thought is if you're just as good or a little better than the team you're playing, you never gamble. If you know they're better than you better do some gambling.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, Mark, you made that statement a couple weeks ago. If you're
Yeah,
playing Kansas City, you got to take a gamble. If you're
you
playing
got to take some chances. Yeah.
Carolina, you play to
Win
your
the
strength.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always believe too that from a personal standpoint, if in gambling and it loses, it only affects you, you lost a bet. But if you're the person making the decision on gambling and it affects a lot of people, then you don't gamble.
Right. Hey, let's talk a little bit about Jalen Hurts last night. He didn't have to do a whole lot. He was 15 for 22, 179 yards, 1 touchdown, no turnovers. Did not turn the ball over again. He's gotten much better with that. Do you like Jalen Hurts, Coach? Do you think he's a Super Bowl championship quality quarterback? And his progression as he moves along here in his career, in your opinion?
Well, I think he's a Super Bowl quarterback. We saw him in a Super Bowl. The only reason they lost the game rather, was that they dropped the shotgun snap. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
otherwise they win the game. Okay,
yeah.
so we know people should not be questioning him. Really, I don't think they. I don't know what he doesn't have. Now, I'm not on the practice field with him, and I'm not in the game planning and knowing how a pass pattern ought to work. I think sometimes he has problems with quick progression, which causes him to look back there and set. And there are people open, but he doesn't know where they are. I don't know if that's a brand new pattern put in the game plan this week, and they only practice twice, and he doesn't respond well in that environment, or he's a guy that needs the reps on each play to really follow the routine of it. But to me, I've said it many times, I don't think he has a limitation
Hmm.
from what I know.
Do you think he shows enough patience in the pocket? A lot of times, it doesn't look like he really takes the time to go through his progressions, and he seems to bail out fairly quickly rather than stepping up in the pocket. Would that be a concern for you?
Yeah, and I think he can handle that. Sometimes our offensive line plays from a 2 point stance all the time. And I think sometimes that the tackles are great players, and they set and they really roll them back deep or outside around them. And I think sometimes within his peripheral vision, he sees too much.
Yeah,
He sees too much, and that forces him to do that. But no, I mean, you can take Dan Marino, John Elway, hey, Aaron Rodgers. You can pick a quarterback apart if you want to, but I think we're wasting our time with the guy we have. He can do it all. I really believe that. And if as a head coach you think he has some limitations, you know it by now.
sure.
Then eliminate the limitations, but do more play action. Did you hear Tom Brady? Did you hear Tom Brady? What he said? He
I
said,
did.
"I can't believe people don't throw more play action pass during the
Yeah,
broadcast."
Yeah,
During the
yeah.
broadcast, yesterday, he says it's unbelievable.
He said if
You
you
know,
ask any
yesterday's
quarterback,
broadcast.
they want to throw play action.
Oh
sure.
yeah, he's,
Yeah, it freezes the linebackers and
it
creates lanes
opens
down the
the field
field.
up.
Yeah, of
It
course.
increases the area with it between zones, vertically and horizontally. So I mean, I've never understand that. But sometimes offensive coordinators only want to be evaluated as a passing guru. That's how
Yeah,
they develop their
yeah.
reputation. I don't know.
Hey, Mark,
So,
we lost Darius Slay last night to a concussion. Of course, Brandon Graham looks like he's out for the season. Um, Hopefully, Slay is not a long-term thing. But what do you think about the loss of Brandon Graham
Graham, that
specifically?
as coach said, he was playing great, and he's more than just a good player. Now he says he's still going to be around. He'll be there for the guys, but they need. I mean, they already lost Huff, who wasn't playing great, but he was starting to come on a little bit. So the defensive line is taking some hits now. So it's going to be up to. Well, he was down for a little bit, but he
He
came
came
back.
back. He came back.
I
Yeah.
think he's okay.
Mhm.
So it's going to be up to Sweat and Nolan Smith, to pick it up. I mean, it's the old thing, right? Next man up. But
Yeah.
Graham's a loss. Graham is a brand. I'm watching that game last night, and I'm saying to myself, he might want to reconsider this retirement thing. He
I,
still looks
I
like
I
he can
said the
play. I mean,
same thing. If he's going to
maybe,
play at
maybe
this level, let's go one more year, Brandon. Right? Then maybe,
right? Why
hey,
not?
maybe this might help his decision. Doesn't want to go out
Yeah.
injured.
Now
Maybe
I think it'd be
How
probably
old is he, Ken? How old is Brandon?
36. 36.
36. Yeah, he's
But you remember
15
you
years. Right?
remember Claude Humphrey?
Of course.
At 34 years old, he got 14 sacks.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
playing for us. At 35 years old, he got 15 sacks. You're as old as you want to be. Sometimes you're old because they don't want to pay you anymore. You go because then nobody else wants you at that age. But really, players can play longer.
Yeah.
But the trouble is they have to sometimes take a less money to play longer at an older age so they can bring younger people in and develop them.
Yeah.
And some guys create their own problem by demanding too much money as they get older.
Yeah. Well, I not only do I remember Claude Humphrey, I still have the scars from him from training camp. He
Oh,
used to
yeah,
have
I
these
bet.
two hands that were wrapped up like baseball bats, and
Clubs.
bada
Yeah.
bing, bada boom. It was a lot of fun being on the scout team back then, going against Claude Humphrey. I'll tell you. Hey, Coach, we've got a few minutes left. I want to talk about a couple things that are near and dear to your heart. Last week, you and I both attended the Otho Davis Foundation dinner. It's a wonderful night. You talk about stars coming out, Mark. We had Nick Foles Bowles. We had Jim Gardner from Channel 6. We had Dick Vermeil. We had Harold Carmichael. And Jaws was there. Keith Kreftley. Yep, a lot of guys. Tell me about your memories of Otho and what the foundation means to you as far as helping these young trainers get a $20,000 each scholarship, which is very, very generous.
It's a big one. Well, Otho was the president of the Trainers Association for years. And I think he was a founder of many different techniques of way of treating injuries. He was never afraid to take advice from another person, a medical person that's has a strength in another area. And he had some unique ways. The number one, he was a good communicator. He had a sense of humor to him. I remember when he used to give all the rookies. In fact, Kenny Jenkins was here at my house the other night discussing CTE issues. Remember Kenny Jenkins? Mm-hmm. Okay. He said, Coach, I'll never forget the time. I went there and Otto gave us, we ought to take this stuff and these vitamins, and all of a sudden I'm peeing blue. Every rookie came here peed blue.
Yep. He did that every year.
He also used to set up a casino trip for all the rookies, and all the casinos would be standing outside, except the bus never came. There was no trip.
Oh, the other one, Thanksgiving turkey, the first-year rookie. All you rookies, you get your turkey at so-and-so grocery store. They go there. The grocery store has no idea what they're talking about. And he was a tireless worker.
Yes, he was. He would actually sleep in the training rooms. My best Otho Davis story, I have a few of them, but we were at training camp at Westchester, and we were in line at the table getting my food, and he goes, do you like fried chicken livers? I said, yeah, I like them. He goes, well, there's the best fried chicken livers you're ever going to eat. I said, well, great. I put 3 or 4 on my plate. We sit down together. I'm eating with him. He goes, you like those chicken livers? I said, yeah, they're pretty good. He goes, well, actually, those are Rocky Mountain oysters. I flew them in from Texas. I said, you better be kidding me, man. And I never found out whether they were or not, but I did not eat any more of what was on my plate. That much I can tell you. All right, now let's talk about one more special thing, and this is something that I'm a big fan of because I'm in your wine club. Vermeil Wine is phenomenal. You're very active with that business, still flying out to California and doing appearances. It's phenomenal wine. If anybody is interested in getting Coach Vermeil Wines, go to vermeilwines.com. You might want to consider joining his wine club. I've been out to his Napa tasting room, which was voted the best in Napa, by the way. And I can tell you that Coach is always so generous. We do our gala, and he gives us the Vermeil wine experience. This year is sold for $4,500. All the money goes to the charity. And Coach is going to host, this year you're going to host an ex-Eagles cheerleader and an ex-employee as well out in Napa for this trip. And thank you for doing that. But talk a little bit about Vermeil Wine and how you got into it and where you're at with that now.
Well, growing up in Calistoga, Napa Valley, like I did, there were a lot of people in wine. And my grandfather Vermeil made our own Vermeil wines from the Freddie Annie Vineyard, which we still pick today. Mm-hmm. My great-grandfather on the Italian side of the family owned a portion of that vineyard at one time. And the home I was born in was my great-grandfather's home, his summer home, his weekend home. He was very successful entrepreneurial businessman in San Francisco coming over from Lucca, Italy. So, I always had the interest in other friends, and I stayed very, very close to the Freddie Annie family, and a son-in-law of the Freddie Annie family had a little winery called On the Edge up in behind St. Lena. And I asked him sometime, I'd like to make some wine like my grandfather did, but put my dad's name on it, Jean-Louis Vermeil Cabernet. And he said, I'll do it. And he did it. And instead of putting his own label on half of his production of Cabernet, he put our label. I had no money involved in it.
Wow.
And it went well. The first year it was released was 1999. I'm coaching the Super Bowl. We win it. He sold off the 150 cases quickly. He said, well, let's keep doing this. Yeah. And then I started putting money into it. And then along comes John Scarpa and Michael Aziz, my very good New Jersey and Vineland friends, said, let's turn the hobby into a business. I said, guys, if that's what you want to do, I'll do it. But don't do it because of me. I was never thinking about it. Yeah. Well, anyway, the wines are very good. They're expensive. And, now we have a brand that's valued and respected in the Napa Valley and around the country. We don't make any money. We make real good wine. We pay all our bills. Mm-hmm. No part. No partner. Carl Peterson's a partner. No partner's gotten a penny out of it yet.
Nothing wrong with drinking the profits, so if
No,
they're all
but
right.
we enjoy it.
Yeah.
And no, in fact, the tasting room this year just won the #1 tasting room in Napa County.
Right.
In Napa County, not only for the tasting room, for the best place to drink the red wines and the white wines. Okay,
Mhm.
so we're very proud of what we've done, and and I think we'll keep doing it as long as I'm healthy. I put on 2 wine things, one in New York a couple of weeks ago, the other one in North New Jersey. They're all very successful. We have about 135 wine club members here in Philadelphia.
Mm.
Eat the wine clubbers. Overall, we have about 500. If it would be, I think partners would start taking a little money out of the business if we had 600 wine
Yeah,
club
well, let's
members.
work on
Right
that.
now, we can't do that.
Everybody listening to this podcast, go to
There
Vermeil
you go.
Wines and sign up for this wine club, and let's get Coach to his goal of 600. But, Coach, I know I can tell you from the bottom of my heart how much I appreciate you jumping on here with us. You've been a great friend to me for over 40 years, and I appreciate it. You gave me a chance to be successful, and hopefully I took advantage of that and made you proud as well. And
No
I
question.
appreciate our relationship.
I'm very proud of all. I call them my guys.
Yeah.
They're my guys, and yeah. So we've got a few that have struggled. We've lost some.
Yeah.
We lost Herb Lusk. We lost Frank LeMaster.
Yeah.
We lost Guy Morris.
Mm-hmm.
We have guys that Bill Berkey's not doing well.
No, I know. I just talked to Mickey.
Oh, a big fly almost hit me in the face. But anyway, they're my guys.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Coach, give me a Ken Dunek story from your as a player.
I remember him well. He had not played a lot of football. He was also a fine basketball player. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then we drafted a #2 pick tight end. I don't know if it was the next year or what, but
Yeah, Greg LaFleur in '81.
yeah,
You remember?
I do. I do. It still left a scar. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, the tight end position then was physical first, receiver second, block first, receiver second, and he wasn't far off. But we had Keith Krefley and John Spagnola, and it depended just how many tight ends you could keep on the roster, and that happens to a lot of guys. A lot of guys starting in the NFL now were marginal on rosters or were let go that are playing well somewhere else. Yeah, and that was Ken's situation. He played well for Jim Mora. That was a good football team.
It was a good. I've always said the Stars and the Eagles would have been a very good game back then.
Oh yeah, that was a good team. You just stop at the think that you think of the All Pros that came off that thing playing in the NFL.
Well, Sam Mills, Bart Oates, Sean Landetta, Irv Eatman. I mean, there was.
How about the Bryant?
Kelvin Bryant? Yeah, Kelvin Bryant. If he hadn't gotten hurt, he would have been right up there with the all-time greats. But, Coach, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. Mark, always a pleasure to talk Eagles football with you. We got Baltimore next week. At Baltimore, it's going to be a tough task, but if the Eagles are going to play like this, I think they have a chance to beat anybody on their roster, and I'm looking forward to talking about it next week. So for Coach Dick Vermeil and my partner, Mark Eckel, this is Ken Dunek. Thanks for listening to the Bird Brains, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.